Hello, everyone. This is another Black Conservative. I am Ryan Bowling. Thank you all for joining me once again. So, the Supreme Court has struck down the idea of racial preferences in college campuses all over America, which essentially says that no longer will colleges and universities in America be able to accept people based on their race alone. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to read just a small portion of this article from Breitbart News. You guys can go to the description box below and read the entire article. But I'm just going to read you a small portion of it. I'm going to get into my commentary about this very controversial situation. So let's get started right away here. And it starts off, Washington, D.C. It says, Washington, I need to read that part. Racial preferences in college admissions violate the Equal Protection Clause of the Constitution. The Supreme Court decided Thursday in a historic decision that with profound implications for racial preferences in many areas of law and public policy. The Supreme Court upheld racial preferences, called affirmative action in college admissions in the Baker decision in 1972. Since then, debates have raged about whether to use quotas, point systems, or other ways of favoring one applicant over another based on the color of their skin, with the Supreme Court upholding some approaches while trimming the sail on others. Conservatives have insisted for half a century that the Constitution does not allow any of those approaches. And like I said, you guys can read the entire article on your own. I have read it, and it's an interesting piece of information. But apparently this is what the Supreme Court has done. And I'm pretty sure there's a lot of controversy with this whole affirmative action situation. Now, based on what I know about affirmative action, and I have studied it from the angles of Thomas Sowell, I've read his works, his information on it. I've read the information from Walter Williams, and I have read their side of the story and have concluded based on what I've read from Thomas Sowell and Walter Williams, who have highly documented their sources, that the whole thing about not only, and let me add another person, Jason Riley, also another rising conservative commentator and political pundit, but he's also on the rise. And all three of these particular individual economists and social writers, if you will, and social commentators have concluded that affirmative action is not what people think it is. Now, when affirmative action was brought forth in American schools, it was done during the civil rights situation in 1964, the Civil Rights Bill, and that's when all these civil rights initiatives took place in the communities, which can be argued really did not help a lot of black people, was supposed to help a lot of black people, but really put black people behind. Now, Thomas Sowell, and I'm paraphrasing his words, he stated, as well as Jason Riley, that when affirmative action was first put in place, the objective was to help place qualified blacks into colleges and businesses and so forth, and place these blacks into these areas of these schoolings and these businesses and companies and so forth who qualified either for the position in the job or for that particular college or university. The GPA was where it needed to be to meet the standards of that university, and the affirmative action was basically designed to assist these individuals. But as the introduction of the article states, okay, after the affirmative action law was put in place, after a while, it became a matter of should it be based on quotas, should it be based on number systems and preferences. And what eventually began to happen as time went on, it became a quota system. No longer was affirmative action about putting qualified blacks in colleges and universities or in businesses and so forth because they qualified for the position, okay, and were being discriminated against based on their race. No longer did it become that. Now, all of a sudden, it became a matter of quotas. So businesses and colleges and campus and universities all over the country, just about like they've been doing prior to this ruling of the Supreme Court as of now, it became about a matter of quotas. or we need to look good before everyone. We need to let the government and the people know that, hey, we're all for bringing in a diverse group of people. Okay, so never mind the GPA of this particular individual black person is way below the standards of which we require. We don't care about that. What we care about is getting a certain quota of blacks in this university. What we care about is getting a certain quota of blacks in this company, regardless of their qualifications. Okay, we care about what it looks like. See, it became a matter of what it looks like rather than taking true qualified, educated, skilled blacks and others of color, if you want to call it that, and incorporating them. It became something totally different. Now, here's my deal on that. First of all, that is, to me, racist. It's just as racist to take a black person who does not qualify or meet the GPA standards of that university and place them in that university simply because of their race. Because you know that they cannot meet the standards of that particular university. You know that. And yet you bring them in anyway. What usually ends up happening? They end up failing because they cannot meet the rigors and demands of the workload of their university. So more and more blacks who were being accepted in these universities based on affirmative action, even though their GPA did not qualify them to do so, were failing. And liberals are looking back and saying, why are all these blacks failing? And deemed it racist. No, boo-boo. The affirmative action that you pushed for actually hurt black people. It didn't help black people. It put black people behind. Because as Thomas Sowell states, prior to the 1960s, affirmative actions and all this other type of civil rights laws and rules that they were trying to push, blacks were on the rise in America. And even in places like the South, which was the cesspool of racism, okay? They were on the rise economically, academically, and socially. They were on the rise. Many blacks were outdoing whites academically during this time prior to the 60s, when these civil rights laws and rules were put in place. So what was going on here? You see what I'm saying? So this whole idea of affirmative action actually down the line, later on, began to hurt blacks. At first it was helping because they were accepting, from what some resources state, that at first it was helping, because you had a lot of qualified blacks who had GPAs that were superior to their white peers, and they were not being incorporated in these colleges simply because they were black. So affirmative action helped in that sense. However, there were people that were black people that were being accepted in universities prior to the affirmative action initiation in the 1960s, even before then. So how much did it actually help? But affirmative action down the line actually hurt black people. Now, here's the thing too. What a lot of these colleges would do is, because they knew the grade point averages of a lot of these blacks and other people of color was below the standard by which they required, what would they do? They would lower their standards. They would lower the GPA to accept these individual blacks and people whose GPAs were very low, to accept them in so that they wouldn't flunk. But you don't lower the standards. You keep the standards up there. By lowering the standards, what you are saying to me as a black man, what you're saying to me is, as a black man, I'm inferior. See, that's why I believe liberals are the actual racist people. Okay, you're not helping me by lowering the standards. You're hurting me, because what you're saying in an indirect way is I'm not capable of bringing myself up to meet the standards. See, the whole idea. See, this is what I be trying to get black folks to see. They keep thinking conservatives and the public are no, boo. No. It's the people you keep serving. It's the people you keep, Lord, you keep patting on the back. They don't care about you. These liberals do not care about you. They have shown their failure rate. The problem is that the mainstream media doesn't want to show the failure rate of the liberal establishment. They don't want to show that. They cover that up. And as a result, many blacks all over this country are thinking they're getting the right thing when in reality, they're getting the wrong thing. It's destroying them. Liberals are belittling you and at the same time coming around the back door and saying, we love you. Man, them people don't bit more care about you than two left shoes. So what ends up happening? You start putting these black people in these colleges and universities with GPA levels up here, knowing that they're going to fail because you want to look like you trying to offer equal opportunity to everyone. There is equal opportunity for all people in this country. We just had a black president for 8 years. Okay, 8 years. Now, regardless of why we had him for 8 years, that could be argued. But the point is, we had a black president for 8 years. Blacks in this country can be anything they want to be. They can be a doctor, a lawyer, whatever. Now, true, it doesn't mean that there aren't people in businesses and corporations and other places and other institutions that may be rejecting them based on their race. I'm pretty sure there are. But let's be realistic. Let's be realistic and stop playing games. How much is that? Is it really a dilemma like the liberals want you to think? No, it's not. That's a big lie. They're only pushing that so they can get your votes. That's why they're doing it. They want you to vote for them so you can keep them in power. Now, someone can argue, well, so are the conservatives. But the conservative way is the best way. The conservative way uplifts black people and shows black people have the mental aptitude to do whatever they put their mind to do. Liberals don't. Liberals always see you as a victim. How is that black empowerment? That's racism. Man, I swear, I want to say something. That's true racism, knucklehead. The conservatives are trying to show you capable of doing it. Do you want to be patted on the hand? Do you want somebody telling you, well, we need to lower our standards for you. We can accept you into Princeton and Yale. Princeton and Yale, are you kidding? Those are Ivy League universities, and you want them to lower their standards so they can accept your knucklehead? No, boo-boo. Keep the standards high. I'm going to show you that I'm capable of doing the work and excelling. We have people that done it. We've had blacks do it when the universities weren't doing stupid stuff like lowering the standards. We had people that were doing it. What about W.E. Du Bois? He was a black man. First PhD. I think he graduated from Harvard. This is before the civil rights and any of this kind of nonsense was pushed into schools. But yet he excelled. Isn't that a contradiction of the idea that blacks just simply are victims and they just don't have the intellectual capacity to do what is put before them? That's a lie from the pits of hell. I'm glad that this is done. I'm glad that they made this decision because we need to stop doing this. This is hurting black people, not helping black people. What black people in America need to do is they need to come up and meet the standard like they used to do before the 60s. Yes, it was slow moving, but they were making progress. They had things. They had dignity and pride and self-worth, even in the face of real opposition and real discrimination. The stuff we got today is fabricated. There is no real opposition. There is no real discrimination on a national level. It is not. It's fabricated. Stop letting these liberals pump your head full of retardation, because that's what it is. It's a lie. And I'm glad that this happened. And hopefully blacks will see, hey, conservatives are not trying to kill you. They're not racist against you. They're trying to show you that this is the way black people work in this country before this whole civil rights thing started being pushed. Civil rights may have helped in some areas, but in a lot of areas, it can be argued they did not help. I'm just saying. So that's my word on that. What do you guys think about this decision by the Supreme Court? Leave your comments in the comment section below. Like, share, and subscribe to my channel. God bless you all and see you again.